During Holy Week of 2020, we have been looking at one thing Jesus did on each day of that original Holy Week. Today we've come to Friday, and as we approach Friday, this is one of the most famous days of Holy Week. This is known as Good Friday. I encourage you to read about it in the Bible. You can read about it in all four of the Gospels, in Matthew chapter 27, in Mark chapter 15, in Luke chapter 23, and in John chapters 18 and 19. And as you read that passage, you're going to ask yourself, why is this called Good Friday? That Friday was very, very dark in the life of Jesus. On that Friday, Jesus was humiliated. Jesus was insulted. He was mocked. He was openly ridiculed. He was spit upon. He was hit in the face, slapped. Eventually, after a trial and Pilate just giving him over, he was flogged and then crucified. Why would that be called Good Friday? And that's a good question, because none of the events that happened on Friday would be considered good. So why is it called Good Friday? It's called Good Friday because the things that happened on Friday, the things that Jesus did on Friday, led to something that is exceedingly good. When Jesus suffered and died on Friday, that led to his resurrection on Sunday. And the humiliation and the suffering that Jesus went through on Friday allowed him to be in a position later where he was able to forgive the sins of all who would come to him. So the events that happened on Good Friday are not good, but what they accomplished are very good. They're very good. As we think about the events that happened on that day, I'm just overwhelmed with what Jesus went through. But I think the thing that impresses me most is how he handled it. We read in the Gospel of Luke that after he had been flogged and nailed to a cross and stood up on that cross to be crucified and to eventually die, as he was being tortured, Jesus prayed and asked for God to forgive those that were doing that to him. He said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." And I am absolutely astounded that Jesus was able to ask God to forgive the people that put him through so much hurt. I have I have just learned in my life to be able to pray for people that cut me off on the Beltway. When I'm driving around and someone cuts in front of me, my first reaction isn't to pray for them. My first reaction is to shake my fist and, what's wrong with you? And call them a couple of names. But Jesus, with intense suffering, asked God to forgive them. How did that happen? Well, first of all, he's Jesus. I'm not. But secondly, we remember the night before that crucifixion took place. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed. And he prayed. He prayed intensely. As a matter of fact, the Gospel of Luke tells us that Jesus' prayers were so intense that his sweat became like drops of blood. The capillaries under the surface of his skin burst because of the pressure that he was under. Jesus knew what he was going to be facing. Not just the physical turmoil, not just the emotional suffering, but the spiritual suffering. He was going to bear the weight of the sins of the world, and in preparation for that, Jesus prayed. He prayed intensely. And in that prayer, he wrestled and wrestled and wrestled, and he finally got to the point where he said, "No matter what happens, I am submitted to the will of my Father in heaven." You remember the words he said? He said, Lord, if you can take this cup of suffering away, so be it. But Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Not my will, but yours be done. I think as we look at Jesus on the day of his crucifixion and we see how he handled things so peacefully, with such calm, I think that happened because of the way he prayed and handled that battle in prayer the night before. And Jesus showed it throughout the Gospels as we read about his life, and I've learned it in my life as well. When I'm going through difficult times, the more time I spend in prayer, the better I handle that difficult time. The less time I spend in prayer, the more troubles I have in the difficulties. So as I think about what Christ did for me, I'm humbled by what he did for me. It's astounding that he suffered to bring me back into a relationship with God. And I'm inspired to want to follow his example and to pray more. To realize that difficult times are part of life. We're always going to go through difficult times. If we're not going through a difficult time right now, hold on, one's coming, right? That's just the way life is. And if I know difficult times are coming, or if I'm in the middle of a difficult time right now, have I submitted myself to God in prayer? The more I do that, the better able I can handle the difficulty. So I want to ask you this day just to spend some time as you read through those passages of what Jesus did for us on Good Friday. As we realize how great God's love was for us, that Jesus was willing to do that to bring us back into this relationship with God. I want you to realize how great the love of God is for you. And I want you to realize that God created you to live your life with him. God created you to be with him. So rather than just spending time with God at a church service on Sunday, and we can't do those right now with this pandemic and physical distancing, I want to encourage you to realize how vital it is each and every day to spend time with God in prayer. Whatever the day is, whatever your plans are, to be able to take those plans and lay them before God and say, God, this is my plan, but Lord, not my will, but yours be done. When we can pray like that, like Jesus did, we're going to be better able to handle the good times and the bad times that come into our life on a regular basis. So I want to encourage you on this Good Friday to know that God loves you dearly and to know that I am praying for you. May we all commit ourselves to pray more to this God that loves us so much, he was willing to lay his life down for us. Blessed be his name. God bless you and have a great day. I will look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.